Good day, class. I will teach you now about an involving use of the internet, distance education. But before that, we should pray first. Father God, guide us always and help us to overcome all the problems we face in this situation. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay? An involving use of internet distance education. Most of us cannot remember a time when cell phones and text messaging were not the norm, when we couldn't Google something we did not understand, or a time when emailing not a daily activity. Technology is changing every aspect of society as we know it. The technological norms are no longer the typewriter and the telephone, but the laptop, tablets, and other smartphones. Even in the rapid information of technological evolution, remarkable changes in communication, in particular, have come about with incredible speed. Some resources have developed from possible to pervasive in only a few years. These changes are by no means complete or even slowing down. The primary reason for this breathtaking revolution in communication is society's recognition of the importance of ready access to people and resources. If age is power, as Francis Bacon said, then communication is freedom, freedom for people to reach information they need in order to acquire knowledge that can empower them. This heady freedom permits the atmosphere of a 21st century information society. When viewed in the context of these revolutions in communication, it is not surprising that distance technology have come to play a central role in teaching and learning. Yet, there is so much to learn about distance education that many educators find it difficult to know where to begin. A brief overview of distance teaching and learning. Being always connected on our smartphone and tablets had led to rapid development in communication characteristics. We are now at a point in our society where constant communication and connection to the internet is simple ubiquitous. This ubiquitous use of technology has given new life to education in the form of distance education. The United States Distance Learning Association defines distance education as structured learning that takes place without the physical presence of the instructor by Holden and Westphal in 2010. Distance learning has not only changed how quickly educators and students can exchange and access information, it also has altered the educational equation in fundamental ways. Thanks to distance technologies such as broadcast television system and the internet, learning has escaped the physical boundaries of the classroom and the school, and students and teachers have become part of a virtual classroom they share with counterparts around the world. Our society is just beginning to understand and take advantage of the potential of this new classroom. From a time when our daily life was using the internet sporadically for resources and information, to a time when the internet is one of the main means of interacting with each other, the times are changing. And it is time for all educators to become part of this worldwide trend and influence. The internet quickly set fire to the interest and imagination of even the less technical teachers, students, and parents. Almost all distance learning applications today involve some internet resources or activity, and many rely exclusively on internet materials. Distance learning is not just the delivery of whole courses, but also refers to the use of the internet and other resources to play key roles in all kinds of classroom communications. Because the internet figures so prominently in many distance learning activities, the rest of this chapter focuses primarily on this rapidly growing and evolving force in education. So now let's talk about the distance learning delivery system. Although the internet was the catalyst for an unprecedented interest in distance learning, it is by no means the only delivery system for distance learning. Indeed, distance can be done without any electronic assistance at all. Distance learning has been done by a correspondence study via postal media, aka snail mail, since the 19th century. Changes in our technological capabilities have brought about gradual change to our methods of delivering instruction at a distance. The first major change to correspondence courses came when presentations were placed on videotape and mailed along with the print materials. Later, improvements in the quality and availability of broadcast technologies made it possible to send audio and video information either live or tape. Sometimes several of the technologies listed in nationalism. Currently, two of the most popular arrangements of distance learning are video courses or telecourses and web-based courses. Courses are still more common in the higher education than they are in K-12 levels, but some K-12 curriculum materials are also delivered in this way. Example, integrated science units broadcast from the University of Alabama to school. Video conference, live video and audio communication via the internet unfortunately is still not as frequent today as hoped, but it is increasing. Video conferencing is being used in many adventure learning programs such as Educational Venture Learning Series. Let's talk about the types of distance learning activities. Once a rarity in education, distance learning activities have become a mainstream alternative to and supplement for face-to-face learning. As Table 7.5 indicates, some distance activities are carried out via broadcast and store video and audio. Example, video conferencing and podcast. But the internet has become the primary medium of most distance learning. Although most educators think of distance learning only as courses, there are actually numerous ways to integrate the internet into the classroom in support of learning. Allen and Seaman in 2009 identified three types of online courses. Number 1, blended learning of hybrid learning, where the course is a mixture of online and face-to-face delivery. Number 2, web facilitate, where a course uses web-based technology in face-to-face setting. Number 3, online, where most of all the content is delivered online. There are 4 types of journal activities that fall under this framework: student research, online classroom-mate, web-based lessons, and virtual courses and programs. A summary of the instructional benefits of these activities is given in the top 10 features. Student research. Students use the internet to search for materials and information to support their research and production work. Although search engines have become easier and more productive to use for this purpose, students still need help applying what are known as the Big Six skills developed by Michael B. Eisenberg and Robert E. Berkowitz. These skills are an important foundation to ensure that students make best use of this form of distance learning. The Big Six are: Number 1, task definition. Number 2, information seeking strategies. Number 3, location and access. Number 4, use of information. Number 5, synthesis. Number 6, evaluations. Online classroom materials. In this type of distance learning, teachers use online materials to help teach themselves and their student a topic or skill. The technology integrated in action example at the beginning of this chapter is illustrative of this approach. Web-based lesson. In this type of lesson, teachers use website resources to structure a curriculum lesson. This is very popular in K-12 education as the lesson and activities easily augment existing curriculum. Virtual courses and programs. Distance courses were popular in higher education long before they caught on at K-12 levels. Since 1996, virtual courses and diplomas programs have sprung up around the United States and in other countries. Enduring Evaluation 2008, Watson, Maureen, Bashal, Gemmend, and Rapp in 2010. Tao, Ramsey, and Watson in 2011, finding that distance resources are usually used to support traditional approach. Virtual K-12 schools are a growing phenomenon, but their impact on educational reform is often hampered by issues such as high dropout rates, as well as disputes over funding and governing policies for maintaining quality. Virtual schooling issues. Although an increasingly popular strategy, K-12 virtual courses and programs present the following ongoing challenges. Curriculum alignment. To be awarded credit, virtual school curriculum standards have to be aligned to state and local standards where the student reside. This is especially difficult when students from a given virtual school came from more than one state. Number 2, teacher certification. To ensure they are qualified, online teachers must receive certification from a state agency. School must either identify one agency or accept teachers from several different certifying agencies. Accreditation. Course credit can be granted either by the virtual school or the school district. Accrediting agencies have emerged to certify online school, but it is sometimes difficult to tell if the agency itself is reliable. Funding. Lawsuits have arisen over whether virtual schools should be authorized to use public funds. Some people believe that virtual schools are an attempt to implement homeschooling at public expense. Possible negative consequence. There is an ongoing dialogue on the possible negative effects of virtual schooling on students' socialization. Also, the dropout rate is usually higher for online courses, and it has become clear that not all students can succeed online with prior help by Rowd 2011, Scott Callahan, and Reed in 2008. Successful online students seems to need more than the usual degree of organization, skills, and self-motivations, as well as better than average computer skills. Online students must also be afforded ready and reliable access to technology resources. Current research and status of distance learning. Fueled by the popularity of the internet, the current wellspring of support for distance learning seems unlikely to be just a passing fad. Years of research have confirmed the effectiveness of some forms of distance learning, and studies of other strategies are on the increase. These sections capture some current research that indicates how distance learning is helping shape the future of teaching and learning, and the current status of distance learning. In the past, the most popular kind of research compared a distance learning method with a traditional method. However, several other kinds of questions are also proving useful in shaping the impact of distance learning. So now, let's talk about the effectiveness of distance learning compared with face-to-face learning. A meta-analysis and review on online learning conducted by the U.S. Department of Education in 2010, comparing face-to-face and online courses, confirmed that students in online courses perform modestly better than those learning face-to-face. Evidence from this meta-analysis does not attribute this gain in learning outcomes to technology alone, however, but instead to combination and variety of contextual, pedagogical, and technological interventions. Larson and Sang in 2009 compared online, blended, and face-to-face courses, measuring student and faculty satisfaction as well as learning effectiveness. While they did not find any statistically significant difference between the three modes related to these three dimensions, they did find that both blended and online learning were perceived by students as being slightly more motivating and more apt to improve their critical thinking skills. In addition, asynchronous courses, or those in which information and message are left for the receiver to read later, tended to show greater gains than synchronous ones, in which communication are sent and received immediately. By Bernard et al. 2009, Offer, Live, and Basil in 2008. There is also no doubt that distance students tend to drop out at higher rates than students in face-to-face courses. Bettinger and Doring in 2010, Pontes, Hassett, Pontes, Lewis, and Severing in 2010. There are numerous debates related to online learning today. Engage yourself with the hot topic debate future for this chapter. Course characteristics that affect success. Some studies focus on course factors that correlate directly to dropout rates in distance learning courses. Bellinger, Sapanakorn, Boggs in 2010, Michinu, Brownell, Leibovic, and Juhel and Delaval in 2011. However, many researchers still agree with Anne Berman in 1991 that course success should be assured by more than just endurance and achievement. Highly motivated learners may be willing to endure anything to achieve a passing grade. Therefore, the majority of studies in this area focus on teacher surveys of students who complete distance learning courses. A study examining a statewide virtual high school conducted by Oliver, Osborne, Patel, and Clayman in 2009 indicate that online students value high levels of interaction and feedback from teachers, content delivered in multiple modalities, and a mix of opportunities to communicate both synchronously and asynchronously with others. Researchers agree that the handful of factors described here are the major contributors to course satisfaction. Beauchamp and Kennewell in 2010, Robinson and Seba in 2010, Scott et al. In 2008. High interaction. Through some studies, find that the convenience of distance learning means more to student than teacher interaction does. Offer et al. In 2008. The single greatest determinant of satisfaction across studies is the amount of interaction between teacher and student. Beauchamp and Kennewell in 2010, Clayton, Blumberg and Old in 2010, Slagter, Van, Crayon, and Bishop in 2009. an in-depth study of K-12 virtual school teachers' belief and practices conducted by DePetro in 2010 indicate that increased interaction with the teacher and other leads to increased perception of student engagement with the content and ultimately a more positive learning experience. Maintaining high levels of interaction is critical in order to maintain the self-motivation for success in distance learning courses. Positive communications and interactions among students must be closely monitored and maintained. However, as negative interaction can have the opposite effect on engagement and motivation. But, as is typical of distance learning and traditional classes alike, smaller class size can determine students' perception of interactivity and, therefore, satisfaction with distance learning instructions. Jones, Warren, and Robertson in 2009 and Colucci and Koppel in 2010 suggest that meeting students face-to-face for the first class meeting helps establish a rapport that can lead to better interaction throughout the course. Support during the course. Many studies show that students value and profit from teacher and other support during their courses experiences, from registration through course activities and evaluation. DePetro in 2010 observed that supportive interaction helps establish a sense of community among learners, resulting in both increased engagement and motivation. In fact, Slugter, Van Tyrol, and Bishop in 2009 found that a lack of community among distance learning can decrease interaction and negatively affect course satisfaction. McBurn, Cheng, and Jones in 2009 find that feelings or isolation of disconnectedness from the teacher and classmates, as well as frustration with technology problems, can also negatively affect course satisfaction. Minimal technical problems. Consistent evidence exists that technical problems can ruin this planned course. Coe and Rosen in 2010, Merkbrin et al. 2009. Successful courses are those that minimize technical problems so that the student can focus on the learning rather than on computer and technical issue. Not having to mediate technological problems also frees the teacher to spend more time on instruction and accommodating student needs. Virtual schooling research. Keep pace with K-12 online learning is an annual report on the state of online K-12 education nationwide within the United States, Watson et al. 2010. It draws data from web-based surveys, phone interviews, and internet research. The 2010 report divides online education into 4 categories: state virtual school, full-time online schools, single-district online programs, and consortium multi-district programs. State virtual school typically offers supplemental education to students within a specific state and are often overseen by a state education agency. As of 2010, they operated in 39 states with about 450,000 students and participating nationwide. Growth of enrollment in these schools is small with the exception of 2 states, North Carolina and Florida, which saw huge gains in enrollment in 2009-2010 school year versus the previous year. Characteristics of state virtual school include the following. Enrollment varies from several thousand to about 16,000 students. A state education agency typically oversees the program, and funding primarily came from the state legislature. Courses are focused on high school students, with some offering provided to middle school students as well. Most programs provided supplemental education opportunities only, even where full-time schooling opportunities are offered. Few or no students are participating. Grades are often determined by the state virtual school, with credit for the course provided by individual school district. Full-time online schools are primary education providers that offer online learning programs for students across multiple school districts, often an entire state. 27 states plus Washington, D.C. had at least one full-time online school in 2010. These schools are growing in popularity in many states though the overall population of students nationwide still remain relatively small at around 200,000. Characteristics of full-time online schools include the following. Enrollment varies from several hundred to several thousand students. Most are set up as charter school and many are connected with a larger national organization. Programs typically serve students across all grade levels statewide. Funding primarily comes from state public education funds on a per-student basis. Student achievement is tracked and accounted for as dictated by state guidelines. Single district and consortium or multi-district online programs primarily offer supplemental education for students and are often part of hybrid learning opportunities that allow students to blend online and face-to-face learning according to keeping pace. This goal comprises the fastest growing segment of K-12 online learning. Characteristics of such programs include the following. Typically, programs provided supplemental education opportunities only and online offering and blended with face-to-face offering. Many target at-risk students and most focus on high school students with some opportunities for middle school students. Funding usually comes from a district existent public funds for face-to-face learning. District range in size from about 3,500 students to over 1 million students. Characteristic of successful distance learning. Some researchers have tried to identify student capabilities or other factors that could predict whether the student might drop out, be less satisfied, or not perform as well in an online activity. A study conducted by Patterson and McFadden in 2009, comparing the student and attrition rate of online and traditional learning programs indicate that online students drop out at a significantly higher rate than campus students. Findings of the study suggest that there is no single theory that can fully explain student attrition in distance learning. Students likely drop out due to a combination variables. So that's all. Thank you, class, and I will give you a task by tomorrow. Okay? Goodbye, class.